The city's top officials together to map out a plan to keep New Yorkers safe. Among the steps he's taking, canceling outdoor activities for New York City public schools. Health officials are monitoring hospital visits and warning those with underlying vulnerabilities to take extra precautions. Eyewitness News reporter NJ Burkett continues our coverage live from downtown Brooklyn. NJ.
Right, Dave, outside the mayor's office of emergency management here in downtown Brooklyn. The press conference this morning was held here to underscore the urgency of the situation. The worst air quality recorded in New York City, Dave, since the 1960s. So yes, they're going back 60 years to see numbers like these. The most important thing for people to understand is that it's going to get worse later today. It's not going away tonight or tomorrow. This is what they call a multi-day event. Now, I asked the health officials whether they have seen an uptick in emergency room admissions or EMS calls. So far, the answer is no, but they stress it's early. More on that in a moment. But New Yorkers are being urged to heed the advice of experts, and that is avoid strenuous outdoor activities. And anybody with a lung or a heart condition is urged to stay indoors as much as possible. The mayor said the problem, unlike the air, is clear.
It really sent shockwaves throughout the entire city and this region. And this morning at 7 a.m., the air quality index was 174 in the Bronx and will remain around that level for at least another day. But this is an unprecedented event in our city, and New Yorkers must take precaution.
The rapid deterioration yesterday, fortunately for New York City, occurred after the busy work hours. So most people by that time were already at home. And I think part of the importance of today is this is now the busy time in the city, and especially through the afternoon, right? We don't want people outside. But the things you would expect to see are more asthma attacks, more heart attacks, more people coming in with angina, chest pain, due to not sufficient oxygen.
And you could see the changes in the air quality already in just the past 2 hours. Again, anybody with a heart or lung condition urged to wear one of these, an N95 mask. Again, to be clear, no uptick in emergency room admissions, but they stress it is still early. This is expected to last to 1 degree or another for the next few days.
I can smell it and feel it, yeah.
People in New York City masking up again, not because of COVID, but due to harmful smoke wafting into the city. Right now, New York City is among the top 5 most air-polluted cities in the world. At one point, the air quality index soared past 200 Tuesday night, according to New York City Mayor Eric Adams. That's a very unhealthy level. The poor air quality is caused by more than 150 active wildfires burning in Canada. The smoke from those fires creating a haze for millions.
It should be super crowded. Everybody should be trying to get the good air, but it's not crowded. That tells you something, right?
More than 40 million people across the Northeast, Midwest, and Mid-Atlantic are under air quality alerts, affecting areas around Boston, shrouding Pittsburgh in smoke, while leaving Hartford, Connecticut under dense haze and smoke lingering over New Jersey. But the haze did not stop all New Yorkers from venturing outside on Tuesday.
I'm not just going to stay in the house because of air quality.
It is a little hazy, but they say, you know, you shouldn't do strenuous activity, but I feel like I can go for a run right now. You know I shouldn't, maybe.
Sports and family medicine physician Tyler Wheeler warns, even if you can't see the smoke, it can still cause harm.
The particle sizes are really very small, which allows them to penetrate deeply into the lung tissue. So what the smoke generally does to the lungs, the thought is that it increases inflammation into the lungs.
At least 10 school districts in central New York have canceled outdoor activities due to poor air quality, which is not expected to improve in the coming days, as a cold front will likely push more smoke south and east into the U.S.
Children who are at higher risk of lung conditions, it certainly would be appropriate to minimize their exposure to the outdoor air.
Air quality alerts from the Northeast to Chicago and as far south as Atlanta. Health officials are warning tens of millions of Americans in more than a dozen states to remain indoors. New York tops the list of cities with the worst air quality in the world, as Manhattan's famous skyline disappeared behind a thick fog that made America's largest city look like the surface of Mars. And then take a look at this on this map from the EPA. The darker the air you are outside right here in the nation's capital, that's equivalent to smoking a cigarette an hour. And the smoke from those Canadian wildfires led to ground stops and flight delays at New York area airports. Plus, the matchup between the Yankees and the White Sox was postponed tonight. CBS's Lilia Luciano starts us off tonight from an eerie New York City where the mayor told residents to wear masks if they go outside. Good evening, Lilia.
That's right, Nora. Good evening. What explains this eerie scene? Why this skyline disappears is tiny, tiny particles that are saturated in the air. Those particles are so small that they can go into your lungs and potentially cause long-term damage if your body cannot expel them naturally. That's why the state of New York is giving out 1 million N95 masks like this one and recommending that people use them.
Today, the sun rose over the Northeast, shrouded in smoke. Haze covering Manhattan skyline and bridges and the Washington Monument in D.C. Smoke was seen as far south as Tennessee and even from space.
It is absolutely mesmerizing and quite frightening.
It's from an intense start to Canada's wildfire season, fueled by high temperatures and dry conditions. The total number of acres destroyed the first half of the year there, almost 12 times the average.
This is potentially deadly if people are out, particularly if you're in one of those high-risk groups, the very young, the very old, and people who have chronic medical conditions.
Time-lapse video shows downtown Manhattan this morning. By mid-afternoon, the thick smoke cast an eerie glow, making the skyline barely visible.
So if you're not able to breathe and oxygenate as well, anything like a heart attack or a stroke, you might be at high risk for. An N95 mask, if fitted and worn correctly, will really reduce the risk.
School districts in the Northeast canceled outdoor activities today.
This may be the first time we've experienced something like this on this magnitude.
To protect yourself, health officials advise staying indoors, closing your windows, and using an air purifier if you have one. And if you're driving, recirculate the air in your car.
What does this mean for hospitals?
Hospitals could see a big influx of patients, people dealing with asthma attacks and some of the other complications from this air pollution.
Doctors say if you feel chest pain, if you feel like you need to cough more or are coughing more, and if you're short of breath, definitely seek medical attention right away. Nora.
Lily Luciano with all that important information. Thank you.
Americans in at least 18 states are being warned to stay indoors as much as possible, including in the nation's largest metropolis of New York City, where skies have turned an eerie orange.
Yeah, that's where ABC's Alexis Christoforous is with an update on the conditions in other parts of America.
Millions of Americans are on alert, being urged to stay indoors, as much of the Northeast is experiencing the worst air quality on record since 1999. The National Weather Service issuing air quality alerts, stretching west to Ohio and as far south as the Carolinas and Georgia.
These values are not just unhealthy, they're downright dangerous, not just to those who have chronic lung disease or those who are elderly, but also to everyone.
New York City's air quality index peaking above 300, or hazardous, registering among the top 5 worst major cities worldwide.
This is not the day to train for a marathon or to do an outside event with your children. Stay inside, close windows and doors, and use air purifiers if you have them.
In addition to staying inside, medical experts advise wearing a high-quality mask, such as an N95, checking HEPA filters if you have them inside your home, and setting air conditioners in your car and house to recirculate. All that smoke is coming from wildfires in Canada. The country's fire season off to an early start, with more than 8.7 million acres burned.
Across the country as of today, there are 414 wildfires burning, 239 of which are determined to be out of control.
While wildfires are not caused by climate change, excessive heat and drought are. And experts believe that's helping fuel longer and more intense fires.
This smoke and fog over New York and the rest of the Northeast is a warning from nature that we have a lot of work to do to reverse the destruction of climate change.
According to Stanford researchers, exposure to unhealthy levels of wildfire smoke for several days is the equivalent of smoking 7 cigarettes a day if someone were outside.